This is a continuation of Robert Swindel's The Ice Palace. As he moved on, the laughter grew louder and he could hear other sounds too. A swishing noise, and now and then a thin, high scream. The tunnel, which by now was wide and very high, took a sudden turn. The sound seemed to be coming from just beyond the turn. Ivan flattened himself against the wall, peered cautiously round, and almost cried out. He was looking into a great, glittering cavern. The floor was of blue ice, and enormous icicles hung in thousands from the roof. Hard blue light glowed and flickered like cold fire, and the wind from the passage moaned around the walls. In the centre of the cavern, its back towards the boy, stood a hideous figure. It was stooped and crooked, and its white robe hung in folds from a bony frame. In one hand it gripped a thin, springy rod, of the kind which Ivan's people used to fish for trout in the river. As Ivan watched, the figure turned, pulling on the rod and watching something that fluttered and squealed far up near the roof among the icicles. It was then that Ivan saw what the man was doing, and his heart turned cold. Fishing. The creature was fishing. But not in the water, and not for fish. He was fishing in the air, and his victim was a tiny bat that whirled and tugged frantically as the man began to wind in the thin line. But struggle as it might, the poor creature was pulled closer and closer to its monstrous captor, and soon Ivan could see a streak of blood at its mouth from the cruel hook. When the terrified creature was close enough, the man clawed it out of the air, crushed it, and dropped it onto the ice, where the broken bodies of several others lay. Then he threw back his head and laughed horribly. Ivan drew back into the passage. The man's cruelty had sickened him, and the laughter turned his blood cold. He tried to tell himself that it didn't matter. The man had not seen him, so he could just turn round and run away and never see the creature again. But deep within himself he knew the name of this monster. No other man could possibly behave with such cruelty. This man was Starjack, and Ivan knew that if he fell into those awful hands, he need expect no more mercy than the poor broken bat. And somewhere not far away, this creature had his brother. The thought of his little brother in the hands of such a man filled Ivan with rage. He was so angry that his fear left him. He would fling himself on Starjack, snatch the rod from his hand, and beat him with it until he screamed like the bat had screamed. He clenched his fists and stepped into the open. Instantly, he froze. It was as though his arms and legs had become ice. Try as he might, he could not move. Starjack no longer fished. He sat now in the middle of the cavern, on a throne of age-grey wood, and his icy stare held Ivan rigid. He moved a hand, beckoning with one grey finger. The pale eyes now seemed to draw Ivan across the icy floor, until he stood trembling before the throne. Starjack stared down at him, his hands gripping the arms of the chair. His grey beard was stiff with ice, and his hair fell in frozen strands about his thin shoulders. After a long time he spoke, and his voice was like walking on crisp snow.
Who are you?
Ivan stood up very straight. He hoped that Starjack could not see him trembling. I am Ivan, he said. The blacksmith is my father. Starjack's lips twitched cruelly.
Why do you come here?
He hissed.
Do you not know that all who enter Starjack's land are dead?
I have come for my brother, said Ivan.
Your brother is dead,
said Starjack. Ivan shook his head. No, he is not dead. I can feel him in here. He touched his chest with a mittened hand.
That is not possible,
snapped Starjack.
People cannot feel other people. They can only see them or hear them.
He flung out a hand.
Do you see your brother here? Do you hear him?
Ivan shook his head. No, but he is nearby. Startek gripped the arm of his throne and rose to his feet.
Very well,
He said softly.
you are right, little Ivan. Your brother is close by.
He turned, beckoning.
Come, and I will show you.
Ivan's heart leapt. He did not see the smile on Startek's lips as he turned and shuffled across the floor. Ivan followed. To one side of the cavern an ice curtain hung from roof to floor. Startek went behind this curtain, and Ivan was close on his heels. The man turned with a leer, pointing.
Well, Ivan, here he is. Was it worth all the hardships of your journey?
Ivan clapped a hand to his mouth, stifling a cry. He was looking at a great block of ice. It was higher than 3 houses and as long as a cavern. The ice was as clear as a crystal pool, and inside he saw children. Many children trapped in the solid ice. Some looked as though they had been running. Others seemed to have been skipping. Some sat and some stood. There were frozen smiles and frozen frowns. And there, right at the front, gazing out from his icy prison, was Ivan's brother.